Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm putting out my picks for week 1 today now that the season is starting tomorrow, but before I do, I just want to address something on behalf of one of the members of this community. His name is Juan Rodriguez Jr., and he's a follower of this channel who lives in the disaster area in Houston, Texas. His childhood home, where his parents and all 5 of their children lived, was completely gutted last week by Hurricane Harvey. I found out about the GoFundMe campaign that he started to try to get his family back on their feet at least a little bit after losing everything that they own, and I want to pass it on to all of you to join me in helping them out. There are nearly 50,000 people in this community, and one of us is going through absolute hell right now. I know that there are a lot of stories coming out of Houston just like this one, and it's really hard to wrap our minds around all this devastation, but I think we as a community on this channel truly have the power to come through and help one of our own. A lot of people are going to watch this video, and I just want to ask all of you that if you have the ability to donate anything, it doesn't matter what it is, it could be $1 or $10 or $50, if you have any way at all to help out the Rodriguez family, please find it in your heart to do so. If you were planning on supporting this channel through Patreon today, don't. Take that money that you were going to give me and give it to this family instead, because they need it a hell of a lot more than I do, trust me. Thank you in advance for all of your generosity, and with that, let's pick some games. Alright, week 1, loaded schedule here. We got 16 games, potentially 15 games depending on if the Bucks and Dolphins game is canceled due to weather. As of the time of me recording this, I don't really know which way they're going to go with that. So I'm just going to go through these one by one. First up, Chiefs at Patriots. I'm going with the Patriots just like everybody else in the world. Even though they lost Julian Edelman, which I talked about last week on the film room, I think they have enough weapons to still be a very effective offense. I think the Chiefs are a great team. I think they're going to be a contender for a deep playoff run, but the Pats are the best in the league, and until people prove that they're not, I'm going to keep treating them like the best in the league. So they should be favored, they are favored, and I'm going with them. Next up, we got the Jets and the Bills playing in Buffalo. It's the exact opposite scenario where instead of 2 contending teams, we have 2 teams that may end up racing for the first overall pick. The Jets roster is a mess, the Bills roster is also a mess, but they're just slightly a better mess than the Jets, I guess you can say, and they're at home, so I'm going to give them the win here. Neither of these teams are going to make the playoffs, and to be honest, both of them are probably going to end up with a top 10 or higher pick in the draft, but only one of them can start the season 1-0, so I'm going to give it to Buffalo just by default, I guess you can say. Game number 3, Jacksonville at Houston. I'm going with the Texans here, obviously, because how could I not? But really, they have a playoff-ready roster. They're playing in front of a home crowd that desperately wants a win after everything that's gone on in the last 2 weeks. The Jaguars also have a playoff-ready roster, but they don't have a playoff-ready quarterback situation. And I think their quarterback situation is worse than the Texans' quarterback situation, so even though both of them had talented defenses, the Texans have a better defense and presumably a better quarterback than Blake Bortles, because I think most quarterbacks are better than Blake Bortles. So I kind of, again, by default, I kind of have to give it to Houston. I think Watt, Clowney, and Merciless are going to be all on the field healthy for the first time ever together. We've never seen it before. So this pass rush could be unlike anything that I've ever even dreamed of. You got 3 double-digit sack-capable guys, 3 all-pro caliber pass rushers, all in the field together, getting after a quarterback that's behind an average at best offensive line. I think the Texans defense is going to tee off on him. And even if Houston can't score that much themselves against a talented Jaguars defense, the Jags, no matter what, are going to score less because I don't think they're going to be able to move the ball at all. So I'm giving it to Houston. They've got an elite defense and at least average quarterback play, and that's going to take them pretty far this year. So they start out 1-0. Game number 4, got Pittsburgh visiting Cleveland for another in-division battle to start the season. I really want to pick the Browns. I really do. I think their outlook for the season is night and day better than it was this time last year, but I'm not quite ready to call them for a major upset against an AFC powerhouse just yet. I think they're close to being that kind of sneaky team, but they aren't there yet. I will say this, though. I don't think it's going to be a beatdown. I think it's going to be a really close game that shows that the Browns are not a doormat this season, but ultimately, because they're so young, they're probably going to lose anyway. But it's not going to be a bad loss. It'll be an encouraging loss. College football fans call it a quality loss if you lose to an SEC team. I think it'll be kind of the same kind of thing. They're a young team, but they're very talented. They played with a lot of confidence in the preseason, even though they're such a young team. I really like that. And even though they probably won't win this game, It'll be an entertaining game. It'll be a close game, and I think that's a big step up from where they were 12 months ago. I would take that if I was a Browns fan. So I think they'll be encouraged by this. Next game, Arizona at Detroit. This is another close game. If the Lions had a fully healthy offensive line, I might lean towards them on this one, but right now I'm more confident in Arizona's ability to put up points than Detroit's. Greg Robinson being the Lions' left tackle will bite them in the ass, in my opinion, especially when they have to rely on him blocking Chandler Jones for 4 straight quarters. That is not a matchup I like at all for them. The Cardinals are still a very, very talented team, and they're relatively healthy, while the Lions are not healthy. It's as simple as that. So, Cardinals start their year with a good road win. Atlanta at Chicago is up next. The Falcons, in my opinion, are still an elite team in the NFC, even without Kyle Shanahan calling the plays. The Bears are not as bad as maybe their record will end up indicating at the end of the year, but I still can't see them knocking off a Super Bowl contender like the Falcons right out the gate. I would be stunned if they won this game. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I would be absolutely stunned. So Falcons win, and just like the Cardinals, they're going to start their year 1-0 on the road. All right, moving on to the Raiders visiting the Titans. I think if both teams were equally healthy, this would be a very interesting game. I think the Titans would actually stand a good shot at winning it because they're a pretty talented team in their own right, but they're pretty banged up right now, especially in the receiving core. It's pretty bad. Pretty much every receiver, their first 5 is hurt in some kind of way, shape, or form. Tajay Sharp just got put on IR. And Eric Decker's banged up. Corey Davis has been banged up pretty much for the last 6 or 7 months. He's been coming off injury. Nobody's 100%. Even if they play, they're not 100%. So it's hard for me to have a ton of faith in this offense. I mean, God, even DeMarco Murray was hurt for a couple weeks during the preseason. So, it's very concerning. I think later in the year, if everybody can get healthy, they're going to be a really good offense. But they're just not healthy. They're just not. So I'm going with the Raiders simply because they have health on their side. At the very least, they have health on the offensive side of the ball where they can put up some points, which is how they won last year. So, yet again, I got the Raiders, another team starting 1-0 on the road, and just kind of sucks for the Titans. If they get healthy, I think they're going to be a really good team, but until that point, it's going to be really hard for me to pick them while they're still this banged up. All right, next game, Ravens at the Bengals. Again, my God, the Ravens, just so many injuries this offseason and in camp and in the preseason. It's been brutal. It's been absolutely brutal. I mean, they just got Flacco back. He just started practicing again this week. So it's very hard for me to pick the Ravens under these circumstances. It's very hard. If everything was equal, I might go with them, but it's not. It's just flat out not equal. So the Bengals are going to start the year 1-0 in their division and be tied with the Steelers for the lead in the North. What else is new, I guess? All right, next game, Philadelphia at Washington. Yet another divisional game to start the season. There's a lot of those this year. I think ultimately Philly is going to win. It's going to be close. I think it's going to be maybe like a 4 or 5 point game at the absolute max. But I am giving Philly the edge because their defensive front is just nasty. It's just nasty. The Redskins offense couldn't really get it together in the preseason. They struggled all 4 weeks. It was kind of painful to watch, and it's not going to be any easier against arguably the best front 7 in the league. They're right up there with Houston. They're right up there with Seattle. I mean, they can get after the passer. They can stop the run. The level of talent they have in that Philadelphia front 7 is just obnoxious. So I think overall that's going to carry the Eagles to victory here, even though they can't run the ball themselves. They've had some offensive struggles themselves. I think if both offenses are bad, I'm going to go with the better defense, and that's the Eagles right now. So yet another team starting 1-0 in the division for the year, and they're going to be tied with whoever wins the Giants and Cowboys game, which I will get to soon. Now, moving on, we got the Colts at the Rams. If Andrew Luck was healthy, this would be an entirely different game, but he's not, so I got to give it to the Rams, even though they don't have Aaron Donald. I mean, the Colts just look god-awful without Andrew Luck. They really do. I mean, he almost should be considered for MVP just because of how bad the Colts are without him. It is painful. Like, arguably worst team in the league, kind of painful. And he's not the only one that's hurt. Ryan Kelly's hurt. Jack Mewhort's been banged up. I mean, Dante Moncrief is hurt again in the shoulder. It seems to be giving him problems. It's bad news over in Indianapolis. So I'm going with the Rams. I think they're going to start 1-0 this year against a very depleted Colts team that doesn't have their quarterback, doesn't have their franchise quarterback. the Colts might legitimately lose every single game until Luck gets back on the field. Their situation is that dire right now. So even though the Rams aren't that good of a team, the Colts are just worse right now. So I'm going with the Rams. They're going to start 1-0. They're probably not going to be a playoff team in LA, but they will start the season strong. So that's good news for them. All right, Carolina at San Francisco, another kind of sneaky good game. I think the Niners, even though they might not be, kind of a playoff contending type of team, I think they match up with the Panthers very well personnel-wise and schematic-wise. I think they're going to win this game. I really do. I think they have the personnel to take away things that the Panthers like to do. They have fast, athletic, aggressive linebackers that can match up with Christian McCaffrey in space. They've got really good two-gapping defensive linemen in Eric Armstead and DeForest Buckner that can stop the run inside with Jonathan Stewart and Cam Newton. They've got good safeties in Jimmy Ward and Eric Reed whenever Eric Reed's healthy, which he is right now. I mean, on offense, they've got a ton of speed with Marquise Goodwin, and they got Joe Williams and Carlos Hyde, which matches up with kind of in my opinion, slow cornerbacks that the Panthers have. I think Marquise Goodwin's going to have a really big game here. And even though Brian Hoyer isn't that great of a quarterback, I really believe in Kyle Shanahan as a play caller. I think he's very familiar with this Panthers defense that he faced for the last 2 years when he was in Atlanta. I'm really feeling the 49ers here. I really do think they're going to pull it out. So, chalk me up for them. They're going to start 1-0. They can shock the world, I guess you could say. That's probably the biggest upset I'm going to call all week, by the way. But I believe in it. I'm going to stand by it. Huge game up in Green Bay this week. You got the Seahawks coming in town to take on the Packers. I'm going to go with the Packers here, but either team could really come out with it. They're both Super Bowl contenders, legitimate Super Bowl contenders. This game's going to have a ton of implications for NFC seeding later in the season, but it's really hard for me to pick against Green Bay in Green Bay, even though it's the Seahawks, because they are otherworldly good at home. It's very rare that they lose at home. You still got Aaron Rodgers, best quarterback in the league, or arguably best quarterback in the league. They got an excellent receiving core. Ty Montgomery, I think, is a very underrated running back. He looked really good last year when he switched positions. Now he's got a full offseason under his belt at the position. I think their offense is going to be a ton of fun to watch, and it's going to be even more fun watching them go at it with the Seattle defense that is just as good as ever. So I really look forward to this game. It's must-see TV for me. Ultimately, I am going to go with the Packers, but, oh, man, I can't wait to watch this one. Similarly, another game I really can't wait to watch, Giants visiting the Cowboys. Yet again, we got the Giants and the Cowboys facing each other in week one. It's almost a tradition at this point. We just got word a couple hours before I recorded this, that Ezekiel Elliott will be playing in this game, and that changes a lot for me. I had the Giants winning before I knew that Zeke was playing. Now that Zeke is playing, that completely changes my pick. I think the Cowboys are going to win. I think he's that important to their game plan. He's that important to their philosophy. He's that important to their team that I think they're going to win this game. And Lord knows they need to win over the Giants. It's been almost 2 full calendar years since they beat Big Blue. But I think this Sunday they finally do it. They're going to start 1-0 in the division. They're going to be tied for the lead with Philadelphia. And after that, nobody knows what's going to happen in the NFC East. Nobody. It's the most unpredictable division in football. But I will predict this one thing, and it's that the Cowboys will beat the Giants. Now, moving on to the Monday night doubleheader, we've got the Saints going to the Vikings. This should be a really fun game to watch because you got Adrian Peterson going back to his old stomping grounds in Minnesota. Kind of a grudge match of sorts, I guess you could say. He's going to be amped up to play. The Saints are going to be amped up to play. You got Vikings fans still holding on to a little bit of resentment for Bountygate, so they should be nice and loud. It'll be a fun game. I think the Saints are going to win because their defense, man, has looked really good in the preseason. And usually the Saints are a very good team when they have a defense to go with their offense. And it looks like for the first time in several years, they have that defense to go with the offense. That is a extremely dangerous team. So keep an eye out for them for the rest of the year, especially if their defense keeps playing like it did in the preseason, because they're going to make some noise. And that brings us to the final game on the schedule, which is the Chargers taking on the Broncos in the late night Monday night game. Yet another divisional showdown, this time in the AFC West, which people expect to be a very tight division this year. Ultimately, I think the Broncos will win this game and start their year 1-0. They still got a good defense, even though TJ Ward's no longer on the team. They've got a ton of other talent. You got Von Miller, you got Derek Wolfe, you got Brandon Marshall, Aqib Talib, Chris Harris, Bradley Roby. They are at home. I think Trevor Siemian is very clearly the best quarterback on that team, so I'm glad that they gave him the starting job over Paxton Lynch, and they didn't feel too pressured to play the first rounder. I think Siemian gives them the best chance to win the game, and ultimately they will win the game. Also, underrated, their offensive line is way better than it was last year. In terms of what they've added through the draft and through free agency. That was kind of their Achilles heel the last few years, but it's very much improved compared to what it was even just one season ago. So I do think they're going to start out 1-0 and kind of be a sneaky AFC contender. They're going to be in the mix from start to finish, in my opinion. I don't know if they're going to be an elite team in the AFC, but they are going to be in the mix for the playoffs. That much I feel comfortable in saying. And for now, they're going to take a 1-0 lead in the AFC West and be on top of the division, at least heading into week 2. So these are all my picks, all 15 of the games that we know are going to be played. We don't know if the Bucs and Dolphins are going to be played or if they're going to be moving that to a neutral site. They might move it to their mutual Week 11 bye week. If they do end up playing it, I personally favor the Bucs. It doesn't sound like they're going to play it, but I just want to get it on record. I do personally favor the Bucs if this game is played. But for all the games we know are going to be played, all my picks are on screen. And we'll see how I do. The first few weeks of the season are usually the hardest to predict because we haven't really seen what every team is capable of yet. But I'm feeling pretty good about these picks. I'm trying to go for a 75% hit rate this season. So as long as I can get 11 or 12 of these games right every single week, I think I'll be in pretty good shape. So that'll do it for the Week 1 picks. Thank you again to everyone who's donated to the channel via patreon.com. Everything that you guys have done for me is really just miraculous. The channel's exploded over the last few months, and a big part of that is just from all the support you guys have shown me. Everybody on screen has given to the channel over the last week, ever since September started. And it's a lot of names, it's a lot of people still supporting this channel. It just blows my mind every single week how much support you guys have given me. But this week, I don't want your support. I want you to support, like I said in the beginning of the video, the Rodriguez family. If you were planning on giving to this channel, just please direct whatever money you were going to give me and give it to them. They need it a lot more than I do. We've got 50,000 people in this community, more than enough to help this one family get back on their feet. And even though I know there's thousands more families in Houston that need help, if we as a film room family can come together and help one of our own in a time of desperate need, the whole creation, the whole point of this channel to me would be worth it. Everything that had ever been put out in this channel, everything that had been done to grow this channel, all the people that subscribe, all the people that donate, all the people that comment and like and share, everything about this channel would be worth it if we could come together and help somebody get their life back together. If you can find it in your heart to donate, please do. Don't donate to me, donate to them. They really need it. So I'll see you guys again tomorrow. I've got season predictions coming. I've got daily fantasy stuff coming the rest of the week. Again, I appreciate all the support. You guys are amazing. You guys are just the best fan base I could ever ask for. You guys are just incredible. You guys are incredible. So thank you again. Much love. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.